Hello, potential friends and adventurers. I'm Em, and today we're going to talk about 5 ways to increase the challenge for your players. Welcome to the DM table. Say you're in a situation where your players are starting to say that they have it too easy, or you're worried that you're not going to challenge them. So we have these 5 methods that are certain to bring some balanced but awesome and difficult challenge to your players at any moment that you desire. So let's get started. At 1, we have a sequence. A sequence in this case would be a combination, a combo sequence essentially, that has steps that you can sort of use to ramp the challenge by need. Say you have a battle. Now, your players are somewhat worn down after a battle. Maybe they need to heal a wound or two. They might want to do some maintenance. It's not serious, it's easy downright, but they still need to patch up a little bit before the next one. Well, what if there was a trap that was following immediately after a battle? Say one of the goblins in the group had a bottle of poisonous gas that, when dropped to the floor, explodes in a, cloud of poisonous gas. And the goblins were losing. Well, that last goblin did his best to make it harder for the players to keep invading their hole. So now your players need to handle the cloud of gas that is there. And this is now not as easy, but say that it's still too easy. You can have the next step. An ambush by, say, skeletons that some shaman has pointed at the adventurers, so that they need to now fight after they have been worn down and damaged by the previous fight within a cloud of poisonous gas against enemies that take perhaps none of the status or damage from the said poisonous gas, being skeletons and such. This easily ramps up the situation, and yet, if the players meet sufficient challenge before one of these steps happens, you can cancel the next step easily. And there you have balanced challenge where your players will actually feel that they were sufficiently challenged, and you can use this whenever you really need to challenge them. It's kind of a simple but really effective method. Now at number 2, we have not quite a puzzle. What is not quite a puzzle? Well, it's a natural sort of puzzle. Say the classical room fills with water and all the doors are closed. Now, you would say that that's a trap, and you'd be correct, but it's also kind of like a puzzle, but there's no set solution, so it's not a puzzle. If there isn't a set solution, which in this case there shouldn't be, because you're setting them in a natural situation that they need to solve, which, well, you haven't really needed to have a particular solution. They need to use their powers and skills and so on and so forth to get themselves out of it. And it's up to them to figure out a way to get out. And since this requires player imagination and the utilization of their powers in a dynamic manner, since it makes them think and act on their own, well, everybody will feel challenged. It might happen to be easy, a little bit, on some occasions. On some other occasions it may happen to be too hard, at which point you want to have a sort of a safety where you thought of how the situation can be diffused if worst comes to worst, and there they can find a clue to escape. Which almost makes this a puzzle, but as I said, not quite a puzzle, because you sort of want this to be a last measure if you really need to have it. Or maybe you just let dice fall where they may. So you just sort of want to still check whether there was a viable, balanced solution just in case. It's not the only solution, you shouldn't even expect them to use that solution, you just are supposed to check whether there was a good, viable solution that's easy enough to find in case of need. Just so that you have tested your own situation, essentially. Now, you can combine all these together. Number 2 with number 1, if need be. If there isn't a need, you don't have to. And then, at number 3, we have when boss is a mid-boss. Or queen, as we call them in my country, but still. So when is a boss a mid-boss? Say that you have your party fighting a boss and they are breezing through the boss, and you're thinking, wow, they're really breezing through the boss, but that's good. They worked hard. They should be rewarded. But then the players say, this is lame. I would have liked if there was a good boss in this. This is disappointing. And then you're thinking, well, I need to do something. And, well, what can you do? It's simple. It's kind of an old playground trick. His bigger brother bursts through the door and says, now I'll show you all. And, well, then the adventurers are no longer saying, oh, this is too easy. Now they're saying, what? There's a guy double his size and we were just barely beating the previous one? And then you're thinking to yourself, wait, they were barely beating him? Weren't they complaining how it was too easy? Because, sometimes player bravado and such. But even if that's not the situation, you get the trick now, right? You can sort of have a quick, bigger boss run in and, take care of business. And what if you're not prepared? Well, it's simple. It's quite logical and realistic, as you've seen in the example. If you have a big orc, his bigger brother is similar, has similar stats perhaps, but he's the bigger orc. So you can quickly improvise the bigger boss. Even if you almost copy-paste the boss, it's still two bosses now, making for a bigger boss encounter. So that's number 3. At number 4, we have complications. This is for quests. If players are saying, well, this quest was a letdown, I wanted to do that and nothing happened, and so on and so forth, you can have complications that turn everything around. The nice, mild quest giver is suddenly a traitor that has prepared an ambush for them where king's men are waiting for them with a droppable cage and spearmen and so on and so forth. And now the whole situation has turned around and the artifact they brought was stolen and they are framed, and the quest giver was the court wizard and he wanted the artifact for himself, and now they're in a dungeon and they need to both escape the dungeon, go through the castle, retrieve the artifact back, run away, so on and so forth. It's a simple example, but you see, if you need to, you can have the quest morph on the fly. It can be very exciting and they will think it's amazing that these plot twists are happening and how was this all planned? Gee, yet you're just responding to need and can improvise these, and then you have better plot twists on the short notice. And the quests have complications. Sometimes when the players complain that the quest is too bad for them, not too easy, you can have positive, complications, quote unquote. You can have things turn around for the better for the players, and then they can enjoy that they actually got what they wanted out of a quest. And yet it was only a shift at the last moment. But don't forget to not be blatant and obvious, sort of parallel what you've heard, go around a bit, improvise, and so on and so forth, and then people won't notice. Or even if they do, it'll be good enough and they'll love it and you won't need to worry that they did notice. But still, try to see whether you can do it smooth and seamless. And finally, a cute little trick at number 5, consecutive improvised skill challenges. You see, sometimes players want to do something that for various reasons you may want to have either harder or they want to have harder. If you really want players to have something that's hard to achieve be actually hard to achieve, and you want them to have a possibility, a chance, you can have them roll, and if they roll high, say if a player wanted to jump on a ledge of a cliff, they succeed, and then you say, but the cliff is slippery, roll for this other stat that helps us get over slipperiness or whatever. And then once they're getting over the cliff, you can say the enemy is swinging at you and roll for that, and they try to push you back and so on and so forth. So you can essentially add stage 2 or 3 of skill challenges, and those are skill challenges and people know about skill challenges. The thing is, when you don't plan a skill challenge series, people usually don't remember that they could improvise a couple of steps ahead. And even when they do remember, it's usually to nerf something. But in this case, you're sort of enabling something that otherwise would look too challenging, too non-dramatic, too away from the ability to entertain the player because the transition is too sudden and the achievement isn't as meaningful as you want it to be. But you only need to do this when you feel that the players wouldn't be satisfied, because if you feel that it's both good for the campaign, it's logical, it's nice enough at least, it's cool, and the players are happy, then you don't need to make it difficulter for them. But if you need to make it difficulter for them, if they're, doing stuff that they want to be challenging and yet they are, not, they're too simple, like say in a conversation, you don't need them to have just one role. You can have them debate a person back and forth and have several roles. It's simple as that. And improvise which roles are needed to make a more sequential, dramatic story. And you'll have an interesting quest, and you'll have those skill challenge lines that you would otherwise plan on the spot, because you make them as players request them, essentially. And there, if you thought this was a unique adventure, maybe you can spare me a click, and then I could see you here next and perhaps every week. I wish you luck on your adventures, and to indeed see you back here again. Bye.